The mist never really lifted in these woods. It just lingered, heavy, pale, and damp. Like the forest didn't want to be seen too clearly. Ethan wiped the sweat off his neck and glanced back at the others climbing the narrow trail behind him. Their boots sank into the soft moss, each step swallowed by the soundless undergrowth. "Tell me again why we didn't stick to the marked path," Derek muttered, tightening the straps of his pack. "Because the marked path has Wi-Fi," Logan said with a grin. "And Ethan here is allergic to people." Ethan didn't respond. He just pushed aside a branch dripping with dew. They'd been hiking for 4 days through the northern stretch of the Appalachians, far from campsites or cabins. Rachel had wanted isolation for her photo project, unspoiled nature, she'd said. And Ethan, ever the planner, had mapped a route no one used anymore. By noon, the light dimmed as clouds rolled in, turning the woods gray. Hannah stopped a few paces ahead. "Guys," she said softly, pointing down. "Look at that." A few feet off the trail, the ground dipped into a perfect circle. Not a crater, a clean, almost surgical hole, 2 feet wide, edges smooth as if carved. "Fox den?" Rachel suggested, crouching beside it. "Too round," Ethan said. He tossed a pebble inside. No sound came back, just emptiness. Logan knelt and peered in, his voice dropping. "It's deep, way too deep for an animal." They found another one half a mile later, then another. The same perfect size, the same silent void. Some half hidden under roots, others open and raw, like wounds in the forest floor. "All right," Derek said, uneasy now. "This is weird. Maybe it's drainage or—" "Who drains water in the middle of nowhere?" Rachel interrupted. She raised her camera and clicked the shutter, the flash cutting through the mist for an instant. Ethan's stomach tightened. He couldn't explain why. But the symmetry of those holes felt wrong, unnatural, in a place where even the trees grew crooked. By the time they made camp near a shallow creek, the air smelled of rain. The group laughed over dehydrated meals, trying to shake off the tension. Rachel scrolled through her shots by the firelight, frowning. "What's up?" Ethan asked. She hesitated, then turned the camera toward him. On the edge of one photo, beyond the hole, something pale seemed to lean against a tree. Blurred. Human-shaped, but too low to be standing. Ethan leaned closer, squinting at the screen. The fire popped, and for a heartbeat, no one spoke. Then he said quietly, "You didn't see that when you took it, did you?" Rachel shook her head. No one laughed this time. Rain started sometime before dawn. Not a downpour, but that slow, steady drizzle that turned soil into paste. When Ethan crawled out of his tent, the fire pit was a puddle, and the air smelled like wet pine and smoke. "Morning," Logan said, crouched near what was left of the fire. "You're not gonna like this." Ethan followed his gaze. The food bag, the one they'd hung from a tree branch overnight, was gone. "At least it wasn't the tents," Derek muttered, rubbing his face. "Probably raccoons," Rachel said, though her tone was uncertain. "They can climb." "Raccoons don't untie knots this cleanly," Hannah said. She held up the frayed end of the rope. It wasn't torn. It had been cut. Ethan's jaw tensed. "Who'd be out here?" No one answered. The forest was silent except for the patter of rain on canvas. The idea of another person out here, miles from any road, made the air feel colder. They searched the perimeter, checking their gear. No tracks in the mud, just vague impressions where the bag might have fallen. When they returned, Rachel stood near the creek, staring downstream. "There," she said quietly. Half submerged in the water, lay one of their food packets, torn open. Someone had dragged it at least 30 yards away. "Could be a bear," Logan offered. "Then where are the prints?" Hannah asked. Ethan felt it again. That same wrongness from yesterday. The holes, the silence, the sense of being watched not by animals, but by something deliberate. "Let's just eat what's left and move on," Derek said. "We can hit the old ranger station before nightfall." By noon, the rain stopped, but the forest had changed. Every sound, the drip of water, the snap of a twig, felt too close. Rachel walked slower now, glancing behind every few minutes. At dusk, they found a flat clearing and decided to camp early. They cooked what food they had, but no one really ate. Logan tried to lighten the mood, telling a story about a failed date involving a canoe, but even he trailed off halfway. When darkness came, it came thick, the kind that smothers light. Ethan lay awake, listening to the faint rhythm of breathing from the other tents. Then came the crunch of leaves. Slow, careful, circling. He sat up, holding his breath. The sound faded, then returned, not running, just moving, as if tracing the edge of their camp. Ethan unzipped the tent halfway and aimed his flashlight into the trees. The beam cut through mist and darkness, catching the pale shapes of birch trunks. Nothing moved. He waited another minute, then slowly turned the light toward the ground and froze. Right beside his tent, half hidden under ferns, the earth sagged inward into a perfect circular hole. It hadn't been there when they set up camp. The morning light came thin and gray, filtering weakly through the canopy. No one spoke much as they packed up. Even Logan had stopped joking. Ethan tried to shake the unease that had sat in his chest all night, but it clung like the humidity. They set off east, hoping to find the ranger station Derek mentioned. The trail narrowed, weaving between slick rocks and dripping ferns. Every few minutes, Rachel stopped to take a picture, not out of habit, but because it felt safer to look through the lens than to look with her own eyes. By noon, the air turned heavier and thunder rumbled far off. "Let's move faster," Ethan said. "I don't want to set up tents in the rain again." "Wait," Hannah called suddenly. She pointed toward a slope where the ground curved down sharply. "Is that another hole?" But this one was different. Larger, almost 4 feet wide. The edges were the same, smooth, symmetrical, impossibly neat. "Don't get close," Ethan warned. Derek crouched near it anyway. "Looks the same as the others. Maybe an old well?" "Then where's the brick lining?" Logan said. He bent forward, squinting into the darkness. "I can't even see the bottom." The next second, the ground under him gave way. There was a sudden, muffled scream, a spray of dirt, and Logan was gone. "Logan!" Ethan dropped to his knees, shouting into the hole. "Can you hear me?" A faint voice came back, shaky and far below. "I'm okay. I think I fell into some kind of tunnel." Rachel's hands trembled as she uncoiled a rope from her pack. "We have to pull him out." "Don't." Logan's voice echoed faintly. It's too narrow. I can crawl, I think. Just stay there." Ethan's flashlight beam flickered down into the hole. the light caught a glimpse of movement. Logan's boots scraping against damp earth as he crawled through a horizontal passage. The tunnel walls glistened like clay. Drops of water fell with hollow echoes. "Logan, talk to us," Hannah yelled. "I'm trying to find an opening," he said, his voice faint. There's something ahead, a bigger space." Seconds dragged. Then came silence. "Logan?" Ethan's pulse pounded in his ears. "Say something." A moment later, the beam of his flashlight picked up the faintest reflection deep below. Something white, scattered across the ground. Then another. Shapes. Bones. "Jesus," Ethan whispered. There were dozens, maybe hundreds, piled together, mixed and tangled. Not all of them animal. One skull, larger than the rest, turned toward the light, its hollow sockets glinting like wet stone. "Ethan," Logan's voice came again, closer now, trembling. "I'm coming back. I'm getting out." When he finally emerged, dragging himself from the hole, he was shaking so hard he couldn't speak for a moment. Mud streaked his face. His eyes were wide, glassy. Rachel helped him sit up. "What did you see?" he swallowed. "Bones. Everywhere. And they weren't all from animals." Silence fell heavy over the group. The forest around them seemed to stop breathing. Ethan stood slowly. "We're leaving. Now." Thunder cracked above the canopy. By the time they packed and started moving, the storm was already crawling over the mountains. Thunder rolled like distant artillery, and the forest dimmed under bruised clouds. "Keep a straight line," Ethan said, his voice tight. "No stops, no photos. We'll rest once we're out of this valley." No one argued. Logan walked near the back, pale and silent. His clothes were still streaked with mud from the tunnel, his eyes glassy and far away. They followed what looked like an old game trail, the ground uneven and soft. Branches clawed at their arms as they pushed through dense undergrowth. Every now and then, Ethan glanced at his compass. The needle twitched erratically, refusing to settle. "Is it me?" Derek said. "Or have we been going in circles?" Ethan stopped. They were standing at a cluster of trees, and there, beside one of them, was another hole. Same perfect circle, same dark mouth yawning up from the ground. Hannah exhaled sharply. No way. We went east the whole time." Ethan's voice was low. "Then there are more of them, everywhere." They pushed on faster, panic creeping into every step. The rain began again, thin at first, then heavier. Visibility dropped to a blur of gray and green. "Stop!" Rachel shouted suddenly. She pointed at something hanging between two trees ahead, a crude lattice of sticks and rope, like a snare. Beneath it, the ground was disturbed, covered with fresh dirt. "Some kind of trap?" Derek muttered. Ethan crouched, examining the setup. Whoever made this knew what they were doing. Before anyone could respond, the ground beneath Derek gave way with a sharp snap. He vanished into a pit, a shout cut short by the thud of his body hitting something below. "Derek!" Hannah screamed, kneeling at the edge. "I'm okay." His voice came back, strained. "Twisted my leg, that's all. Wait, what the hell is?" A rope whipped tight. Hannah shrieked as something yanked her upward. In seconds, she was off the ground, tangled in a net that swung violently between the trees. "Cut her down!" Ethan shouted, grabbing his knife. But before he could reach the trunk, Another trap triggered. A second net shot up, dragging Logan with it, his backpack tearing loose as he spun helplessly. "Don't move!" Ethan yelled to Rachel, but it was too late. The ground gave under her feet with a wooden crack. The world flipped, and she was gone. Ethan stumbled back, heart pounding. The forest was chaos. Ropes creaking, rain slapping leaves, muffled cries echoing through the trees. He turned to run, but something slammed into his leg, a wire snapping tight. The world spun, the sky rushed downward, and everything went black. When he opened his eyes, the world was upside down. His arms were bound, his body hanging in a coarse net high above the ground. The rain had stopped. The forest was eerily still, the air heavy with the smell of damp earth. "Rachel?" he called out. No answer. Then, movement. He turned his head. Through the dim canopy, he saw other shapes swaying between the trees. Other nets, other bodies. His friends. All of them hung just like him. Ethan didn't know how long he'd been unconscious. The world around him was silent, soaked in that strange green light that filtered through the wet canopy. His shoulders burned where the ropes bit into his skin. Every breath tasted of damp moss and metal. Somewhere to his left, a voice groaned. "Ethan?" It was Rachel, weak, hoarse. He turned his head, wincing as the net swayed. "I'm here. Are you hurt?" "I think just bruised," she whispered. "Where's everyone else?" He looked around. Hannah hung 10 feet away, motionless but breathing. Derek's net had torn slightly, leaving him tilted sideways. Logan was still, his head slumped forward. Ethan tried not to think about what that meant. "Can you reach your knife?" Rachel asked. "It's gone." Below them, something moved. A rustle, soft, deliberate. Ethan froze, peering through the mesh. At first, he thought it was shadows. Then the shapes shifted again, emerging from the undergrowth. There were 3 of them, maybe 4. Their movements were wrong. Too low, too fluid. They crawled on all 4s, their pale skin slick with mud and rain. Limbs thin, elongated. Faces almost human, but with wide black eyes that caught the dim light like glass. Rachel gasped. What are they?" Ethan didn't answer. He couldn't. The creatures circled beneath the nets, silent, except for the faint scrape of their hands against the ground. One of them lifted its head, sniffing, listening. It lingered under Logan's body. Then, without a sound, it tugged at the net, testing its weight. Ethan's breath hitched. "Don't move," he whispered. "Don't even breathe loud." The thing tilted its head, as if it understood. Then it turned toward the others. The group began to work together, pulling ropes, cutting at the vines that held the nets. It wasn't random, it was coordinated. Derek stirred, muttering weakly, "What's happening?" One of the creatures stopped below him. Slowly, it crawled to a clearing a few feet away, where a large, flat stone jutted from the earth. Even from above, Ethan could see the faint reddish stains on its surface. The creature touched the stone almost reverently. Then it looked up. Rachel whispered, trembling, "Ethan, they built this." A sound tore through the stillness, ropes snapping. One of the nets dropped halfway before catching again. Hannah screamed, the sound breaking the spell of silence. The creatures reacted instantly. Two of them sprang toward the sound, their movements spider-like and impossibly fast. Ethan shouted her name, but it came out strangled, swallowed by the forest. He fought against the net, twisting, pulling, until the ropes cut into his wrists. Below, he could see them dragging Hannah's net toward the clearing, toward that red stone. Rachel was crying quietly now. "Ethan, please, please do something." He didn't answer. He couldn't look away. The light shifted as clouds moved above, and for a brief moment, he saw all of them. Pale backs, long fingers, faces turned toward the stone. There was no rage, no hunger, only purpose, something primal, old and patient. The air was thick with the smell of earth and decay. Ethan closed his eyes. The rope above him creaked, and he felt the weight of the net shifting, fibers loosening. Somewhere below, Hannah's voice broke off. He opened his eyes again and saw the creatures standing still now, heads tilted upward. All of them looking directly at him. For a moment, no one moved. Then one of them began to climb. Ethan didn't scream. He just watched as the figure rose through the branches, slow and deliberate, its black eyes fixed on him. The forest was utterly silent. No wind, no birds, no rain. Only the creak of the net and the quiet rhythm of something climbing closer. When it finally reached the edge of his vision, Ethan realized the truth that froze him completely. These weren't animals. They had once been people. And as the creature's face emerged from the leaves, inches from his own, Ethan understood that the forest had never wanted them to leave.
If this story unsettled you, leave a like and let the shadows know. Subscribe for more tales you shouldn't hear after dark. And if you've seen something you can't explain, tell us in the comments. We're always listening.